All right, we're gonna go ahead and start. Welcome to another episode of Rahat Codes. Um, I'm Rahat, software engineer from New York City, just in case you haven't been watching. And so, last episode on last week, I wore my shirt. This episode, I'm wearing my hoodie because I'm awesome and I bought a shirt and a hoodie with my logo on it. Yeah, anyway. Um, so today, I was originally going to do a continuation of last week of where we were testing my NPM package with Jest. I've decided not to. The reason being, I'll fully admit it, I don't think I can actually complete that on a stream. Um, so I just did like a little bit of research before I decided what to do with the stream, and it looks like I'm gonna have to learn a bit more about mocking like FS modules and things like that, since that's what we're using in the npm package. So fully admit that's definitely not something I can do in 30 to 40-minute stream. So something I'll have to research into it a little bit and do in my own time. But I still want to do kind of an episode on using Jest to test some stuff. So I'm going to actually implement a test on a current project I'm working on. This is the backend for it. This lovely view of VS Code that you see here is the backend for one of my projects, which is called Project Seed, which is going to eventually be a platform for sharing resources about code um, with other people who are also learning, things like that. Hoping to build this out into a platform where people can share resources, collaborate, and just kind of, another place to kind of like learn to code with other people in the same sort of position as you. If you're like in a boot camp or self-taught, whatever, it doesn't matter. Um, just an inviting place like that. So that's in the works. I've got a design for it, which I shared on Twitter a little while ago. But yeah, today we're doing. I'm going to go ahead and test a one of my resolvers. So I haven't gotten very far yet with this backend API. I'm also not completely sure if I'm going to continue with the current setup of it. I may switch to a different database. I'm not 100% sure. I've been looking at DynamoDB and like some serverless stuff with like AWS Amplify and kind of leaning towards moving there, but we'll see. Um, cool. So just a quick rundown of what's going on in here. I've set some stuff up. So I've already installed Jest. I've configured it. We don't have to go through that again. I kind of went through it last time. So I have this test folder. Um, this is based on a front end master's course, Advanced GraphQL. And let me see, who is that from again? I remember his first name is Scott. I think his last name is Moss. Scott Advanced GraphQL. Yeah, Scott Moss. Um, so if you have like a front end master's subscription, or if you don't, definitely consider getting one. There's an awesome course on advanced GraphQL from Scott Moss in there, and his course is kind of like what I built my back on kind of modeling around a little bit. So if you've taken his course, you might see some similarities. Um, so I'm not ripping him off. I'm giving him credit. It's just kind of where I learned some of the more advanced GraphQL techniques. So um, we can go ahead and start. So I have this test folder right here. In my test folder, I'm mocking all of my API, my entire API I'm going to be testing in here. So right now I have this user.spec.js. That's where I'm going to test my user resolvers. So hopefully today we're going to get a working test on a user resolver. That's the goal. So I have this DB right over here. Um, just a little bit of boilerplate. All we're really doing is mocking our Mongoose database. We have like a local thing kind of running. I'm going to be running it locally, so I have MongoDB running in the background. Or do I? Let me just make sure. Yeah, I did not. Good thing I checked. Cool. So we're just testing against a local database. We don't really want to test against our actual database because why hit your database more than necessary? Um, but there's a couple functions in here. There's a disconnect, connect. There's a generate mongoose ID in case we need to generate any IDs. And there's a clean DB function. So after every test that we run, we're going to clean our database. Um, so I'm going to put in a couple things in here that we're going to need. First of all, I want to import my database. So import DB from dot/db. And we're going to import. So we're testing our user resolvers. So let's actually import our user resolvers. And if you've been watching my stream, you know I cannot spell to save my life. When I was first learning to code in my boot camp, there was a time where I couldn't figure out why a style sheet was not connecting, and it's because I don't know how to spell style, and I spelled style. Say API slash users and users.resolvers. Cool. All right. So we're going to test making a test user, if that makes sense. So there's three things that my users need to be created. So I'm just going to create a JSON file with everything we need. So the three things that are needed are a username, test user, and email. And we'll just say that's, I don't know, email@email.com. Super. Oh, so I have a linter. It doesn't like my use of double quotes. Okay, cool. And it also needs an avatar link. So basically what I want to do with my users is have a username, an email, and some type of avatar link. I'm probably going to use an OAuth system and have them sign in with like Google or GitHub or something and grab their profile picture, and that'll be kind of like how their profile is created. So this is going to be, we'll just say it's at google.com because that's where my avatar lives. Awesome. These are all yelling at me because I'm not using them yet. That's all fine. Great. Cool. So let's do describe. We're going to describe our users. That's what we're testing right now. And callback. So if we go back, and I showed you this real quick, but we'll go back and take a look at it. In our DB, we have these functions: connect to DB, connect, disconnect, generate mongoose ID, things like that. So what I'm going to do here is, before I run all my tests, so before all, I want to make sure I'm connected to the DB. Great. After all my tests, I want to disconnect from my DB. There's no sense in staying forever connected. And also after each, I want to clean the DB. It's just going to go ahead. Since this is just test values and stuff, we don't want like stuff we're adding to the DB now to interfere with other tests. So that way we just start with a clean database every single time we're doing a test. Great. Let's fix this capitalization issue. Cool. Now, we're going to describe again. So within our users, we're describing our resolvers. I'm not going to do it on this stream, but you can also start testing your action, do some integration tests with your GraphQL schema. I'm still kind of figuring out the best way to do that. I've been having a little bit of trouble just like getting just to have access to the GraphQL files, but I've found a couple Babel plugins and configurations. So I'm gonna play around with those. they look pretty promising. Cool. So describe resolvers. And describe user. Because we can have multiple resolvers. The resolver I'm testing right now is the user resolver, where we actually um, save a single user into our database. These describes will basically, they're just like sectioning out different things that we're testing within our file. Okay, so describe user. So we're going to test that a single user resolver should, in fact, return one user. Make sure, our thing works. So this is going to be an async function. Let me, I don't think we need this. Have a little bit more real estate on our screen. Okay, cool. It's going to be an async function. Let me just take a quick peek at the API for user, use type resolvers. Okay, I can see Friday. Okay. All right. Yeah, so basically, the reason I made this test user, so when we create a user, it takes some arguments. Those arguments are basically everything in here. Okay. I think we can do this. Okay. So I know I'm going to create a user, right? So let's actually create the user. So const user equals await db dot db.models. User, yeah, users. I think I used create, right? Oh yeah. See, this is great. Tells me what I used. Create, and we're going to create this test user person over here. Test user, wonderful. Okay. Then there's going to be a result. So the result is going to be basically, so we made this user, right? So now we want to actually go in and check that this user exists. So technically we're doing two resolvers in one. We're creating our user, but now to make sure our user is actually there, since we're not in like a GraphQL playground, we're not just going to get a nice JSON object to let us know it's there. We have to query the database now to make sure that this test user that we just made actually exists. So, trying to think of the best way to do this. So in our, so I know in our user resolvers we also have queries. Query user. Query user. Fine. Okay. Okay. Gotcha. I'm definitely not going to get this in one go. But const result equals await user resolvers dot query. Yeah. Now, is that all I need? Like, can I do expect result dot dash ID? I'm doing this dash ID, like underscore ID. I said dash, because that's like kind of what the what MongoDB formats their IDs like. I want to make sure it comes back as a string. So dot to be. So this is what should happen at the end of the day. User ID. So we have this user that we created and the result from our query. We want to make sure in our result, when we're actually running the query, the ID of the user that we get back is going to be the same as the user ID that we already created. If that makes sense. Because we have this user object and there is going to be the ID. All right, let's see what happens when we test that. Let me bring my term over here. It's npm run test. Ooh, what's going on? Oh, I am in the wrong thing. Npm run test. Test, cool. It's doing its thing. Failed as expected. Okay, let's see what happened. Unexpected token, expected a comma. Ooh, I do that a lot. I forget this damn comma like all the time. Should return, and I also still can't spell. I didn't even see that. Like, ESLint was already yelling at me. I didn't even see that. Okay. All right. Let's run that test again. Should get a different error this time. That should be helping us figure out how to get to our thing. Test user single, okay. Test user is not a function. Test user. Oh, when did I put this user in here? Okay. I don't even remember how that got there, but it should just say test, not test user. So to make our lives a little easier, I'm going to put this in a different screen and just that. Let's clear that out. And run the test again. Okay. Should be a different error this time. Okay. Something happened. So I'm expecting this. So it's reading one of the IDs, but not the other one. Okay. So it's expecting this, but getting undefined. Oh. So I have this const result equals await users.result user resolvers dot query. I have access to the query. I'm not actually running the query. I need to run the thing in order for it to work. So dot user takes in some arguments. I think parent is the first thing. We're not really doing the parent, so null. Or I can just probably do this. Takes an input. What's the input again? Oh yeah. Input is basically all this stuff in here that I'm inputting. So I'm going to input ID is user dot id. Okay, and the model it has to like go against is models db dot models. Made it a little easy for myself, at least on that part. Why are you yelling at me? Yes, lent. Expected indentation of 10 spaces. But why? Okay. Cool. What about you? It's not defined. I think probably just have to do null there. Yeah. Input. Extra space. I think I'm just missing a space here. Cool. No more linting errors. Wonderful. Okay, so now we're actually going into the user and querying for one of them. Because in the input, I'm saying, so if we look in the user.resolvers, it's find by ID. So we just, in order to find the return one of the users, we need to supply the ID. So I'm taking the ID of the user that I created up here and trying to find something in my database that has that ID. Cool. And this, in theory, should work. If this works, wonderful. It will make up for all the failures of last stream. It's fine. npm run test. I think this is going to work. Ooh, it worked. My test has passed. I'm a genius. Should always be proud of yourself when you do stuff, even the small things. Cool. So this is how you unit test a GraphQL server. As I kind of build out this backend, if I continue with this, I'll be adding more tests. If I find any interesting ones, I might stream those. But like I said, I don't know yet if I'm going to stick with my current setup. If I want to continue using MongoDB or head over to DynamoDB, still remains to be seen. I'm also thinking about doing Postgres, practicing some of my SQL queries and whatnot. So that's also another option. We'll see. I'll probably decide sometime this week and actually start working on that database. Hopefully, I want to try to get this project out soon. There's a lot of work, so I don't know how soon, but we'll see. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in. Much shorter episode than last week. Last week, I kind of got absorbed in wondering why the heck all my tests won't work. And then I found out, of course, that I need to figure out how to mock FS modules and things like that. So that's once I do figure that out on my own, I may do that like on another stream, like go through the steps of how to test a CLI tool that uses FS modules. So that'll be for like a future stream, maybe not next week, but somewhere down the line. Once I have some time to just sit down and figure that out. Cool. So thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Rahat Codes, and we'll see you next week.